Imam Ahmad Raza, guiding souls with wisdom's grace, guiding souls with wisdom's grace. Our grand Mujaddid, a cherished embrace. Our grand Mujaddid, a cherished embrace.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين. أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الصلاة والسلام عليك يا رسول الله وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا حبيب الله. الصلاة والسلام عليك يا نبي الله وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا نور الله. Welcome dear viewers to another episode of our program Life of the Grand Reviver, wherein we're discussing various aspects of the life of the Mujaddid of the last century, Ala Hazrat Imam Ahmad Raza Khan, alayhi rahmatur rahman. And in this episode, inshallah, we'll be discussing his bay'ah, his spiritual allegiance that he pledged with his Murshid Kareem. And we will learn from his blessed life in terms of how we should approach, and we will learn from his life in terms of how to approach bay'ah and the Murshid. How should the Murshid be in our eyes, the respect for the Murshid, and various other things as well, inshallah. Now, first of all, the foundational thing that we must learn and we must know is that when you pledge allegiance, when you give your hand in the hand of someone, what is the maqsad behind this? The maqsad is, I want to rectify myself. I want to better myself. And this person who I'm pledging allegiance to, he's already traversed on this path. He's already gone through this stage. He's perfected himself. And he will, inshallah, have a positive effect on my life as well if I follow his instructions. Remember, his instructions will be in line with Quran and Sunnah, because tariqat, which is often the name given to this field of spirituality, pledging allegiance to a sheikh, joining a spiritual order, tariqat is in conformity to Shariat. Anything which is in the name of tariqat but it opposes Sharia, then in reality it's not tariqat. Now, the meaning of murshid is guide. So when a person gives his hand in the hand of a spiritual guide, this is what he wants. He wants to attain guidance. The thubut, the evidence for bay'ah, is found in the Quran and Hadith. There are verses of the Quran, there are many ahadith which support this concept of giving bay'ah. Allah Rahmah himself has said, and it's also reported from Shah Abdul Aziz Muhaddith Dehlawi, that this is a concept which is found in Quran and Sunnah, and there are so many benefits of giving bay'ah as well. What are those benefits? That when a person follows a Kamil Shaykh, a Kamil Peer, he remains on the straight path. That Peer gives him guidelines, that Shaykh gives him guidelines as to how to remain on the straight path. Now it's up to the murid to follow those instructions, follow those guidelines that have been given to him, and inshallah, he will remain on the straight path. Now, as for the Shaykh himself, for him to qualify to be a spiritual guide, he has to meet certain conditions. Not anybody can just make a proclamation one day, a declaration that, yes, I'm a Shaykh and murids should come to me and pledge allegiance to me. This is not how it works. In fact, in Sab'a Sanabil of Mir Abdul Wahid Bilgrami Rahmatullahi alayhi, he states that there are 4 conditions that one must meet in order to be a spiritual guide. And Ala Hazrat has also mentioned the same in Fatawa Ridawiyya. The first shart, the first condition, is that the Shaykh is a Sunni Sahihul Aqidah, that his Aqidah, his doctrine, his belief is in line with Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah. All the Aimah who came before, the likes of Imam Nawawi, Imam Jalaluddin Suyuti, the Aimah Arba'ah, and many other illustrious ulama, rahimahumullah ta'ala, all of their teachings, all of their aqaid that they documented are what we know as Sunni Aqidah. So the Shaykh has to follow that. And he cannot be a deviant, he cannot have deviant beliefs mixed with Sunni Aqidah. So that's number 1. The second condition is that the Shaykh is not a fasiq mu'lin. He is not someone who sins openly. He doesn't transgress openly. Because if he does, people are witnessing him doing wrong, then how can he be a guide for others? So, without comparison, but Yazid wanted Imam Hussein to give bay'ah to him. And Imam Hussein radiallahu ta'ala knew that Yazid was a fasiq, a fajir, someone who drank alcohol, committed adultery, wanted to make the lawful unlawful, the unlawful lawful. He went to great extremes. So Imam Hussein radiallahu anh refrained from giving bay'ah to him because he's not qualified to lead. Now here we're talking about a spiritual guide. Again, if the spiritual guide, if he is sinning openly, he doesn't have a care in the world, people are watching him sin, how is he going to ever lead someone? How is he ever going to cleanse someone's inner? How is he ever going to make someone live a life of piety when he himself is openly sinning? So that's the second condition. And from this second condition, we also realize that many people today who claim to be shuyukh, who claim to be those who can be a kamil shaykh of a murid, and we see that many unlawful prohibited acts manifest from them, that they commit these openly. Either they're meeting women openly, they're touching women's heads openly, they listen to music openly, or other sins are committed openly, then that person doesn't qualify. That person, it's unlawful to give your hand in his hand. The third condition is that the shaykh is able to find out and ascertain rulings that he is in need of in his daily life direct from the books of fiqh, hadith, Quran, etc. That he is a scholar, he has that much knowledge that he is able to derive these rules from the books written by the scholars. He knows where to look for a particular mas'ala. This is another condition, meaning he doesn't have to refer to someone else in this regard. Now, if he doesn't have knowledge, how is he going to guide? If he doesn't have sufficient knowledge to guide a murid, then he's not qualified. And the fourth condition that's mentioned, that his silsila, his chain, has to go all the way back to the Prophet ﷺ. So the spiritual order that he's representing, whether it's the Qadri, Chishti, Sohrawardi, Shadili, Rifa'i, whatever it is, Naqshbandi, then he must have gained ijazah from a Kamil Shaykh to take on murids. Someone must have made him a successor. And then the person who made him a successor, that should have been the case with him also, that he gave his hand into the hand of a Kamil Shaykh, and that Shaykh authorized him to take on murids. And like this, the chain should go all the way back to the Prophet ﷺ. Because we know the Prophet ﷺ is the one who, in this ummah, was the first to take on murids, meaning the Sahaba were his murids. They pledged allegiance to the Prophet ﷺ. They knew that the Prophet ﷺ was their guide, their Shaykh. The Quran mentions this, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يُبَايِعُونَكَ إِنَّمَا يُبَايِعُونَ اللَّهِ. Allah Ta'ala says that those who gave bay'ah to you, indeed they gave bay'ah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this concept of bay'ah, right from the Prophet ﷺ, it began. And then throughout the ages, the Khulafai Rashidun, and then the Tabi'een, Atba'u Tabi'een, Awliya Kamilin, throughout the ages, they continued this, where they gave their hand in the hand of a Kamil Shaykh, and then many were authorized to take on murids themselves as well, when they fulfilled all the conditions. So Allah Rahmah, he mentions these conditions, other scholars also. And Allah also mentions in Fatawa Razawiyah, volume 21, that Sharia and Tariqah are both the same. Sharia, which is about the Zahir, halal and haram, fiqh, and then you have Tariqah, which is about preserving the inner, the state of the heart, to avoid the diseases of the heart, etc. Allah Rahmah says that Tariqat is tabi' of Shariat. It follows the Sharia. So anybody claiming that a particular concept is found in Tariqah but it's not found in Sharia, that person is a liar. The asl has to be found in Sharia. And we know that Sharia is an ocean, and Tariqah is akin to a river from that ocean. So it all goes back to the same source, the Sharia of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Allah refutes those people who try to differentiate, and they say Sharia is something else, Tariqat is something else. And those people, ma'adallah, this is a very dangerous haraka, act of theirs, because this way they're trying to open the doors to fisq and fujur, transgression. Because how can something be allowed in Islam but it's not found in Sharia? And they confuse people. They say Sharia is something else. And ma'azallah, some even go to the extent of saying we're not in need of Sharia, we have tariqah. And this shows their jahala, their ignorance, the levels of their ignorance. So famously, a quote is narrated of Sayyid al-Ta'ifa Junaid Baghdadi rahmatullahi alayhi, a high-ranking saint of his time. He was asked that some people say they have reached a particular maqam where they're not in need of Sharia and they've attained success and they have reached their goal. And Junaid Baghdadi rahmatullahi alayhi says, yes, they have reached, but where have they reached? They've reached the fire of hell. In their mind, they think they've reached success. They have attained success and they're on the right path. But in fact, they're not. They've reached the fire of hell. Why? Because of their ignorance, because of their differentiating between Sharia and Tariqah. So this was just a tamheed, an introduction to the topic of bay'ah. Otherwise, there are plenty of books found on this topic, and we can do a whole series on this if we wanted. Moving on, Ala Hazrat Ali Rahma, this blessed personality, right from the off, you could sense that there were signs of genius found in him. And this person would want to do amazing works for the deen. At the age of 8, we see that Ala Hazrat is writing a hashia in Arabic. At the age of 8, what can an 8-year-old do today? And then when he reaches the age of 22, he performs bay'ah, he pledges allegiance to Sayyid Ali Rasul Ma'arahrawi rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi. And the incident is as follows. Ala Hazrat says, on one occasion, I was sad due to a certain reason. Due to a particular reason, I was full of grief. And in this state, I went to sleep. I had a dream, and in my dream, I saw my grandfather. My grandfather, bless me. He says, my grandfather handed me over a box, and he said to me, soon, my grandfather gave me a chest, a box, and he said, soon, a certain person will come who will cure your grief, who will remove your grief. He states that the next day, Maulana Tajul Fuhul Abdul Qadir Badayuni, rahimahullah ta'ala, blessed us in our home. And then Allah says, me, my father, Maulana Naqi Ali Khan, rahmatullahi alayhi, and Tajul Fuhul, Maulana Abdul Qadir Badayuni, rahmatullahi alayhi, we all went to Marahra Sharif. And when we went there, we performed bay'ah with Sayyid Ali Rasul Marahrawi, rahmatullahi alayhi. Ala Hazrat, who was blessed with this insight, could say sixth sense. When he reached the train station in Marahra, he says that I can smell the fragrance of a Kamil Sheikh. I can sense it. Subhanallah. And Sayyidina Ali Rasul Marahrawi rahmatullahi alayhi was one of the greatest awliya of his time in his particular era, in his locality. He was a great scholar as well, and he studied under his uncle Ache Mian rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi. He had great gnosis, ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was full of humbleness, humility, had a serious demeanor. And whenever someone would visit him, he would honor them, he would welcome them, and be very hospitable. He manifested many miracles, many saintly miracles, and he was the murshid of Ala Hazrat Ali Rahmatur Rahman. Now, imagine the scene. This is the state of the murshid. He's a great scholar, a great wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the murid who is about to arrive, Ala Hazrat Imam Ahl Sunnah, is also a great scholar. He's also a great wali of his time. So what happens when they meet? Imagine that scene, imagine that gathering, that nurani, illuminating gathering, subhanAllah. Ala Hazrat reaches Marahra. And this is not too far from Bareilly, where Ala Hazrat was from. And it's important to note that those people who become murids in the silsila of Sayyid Ali Rasul, they're known as Barakati. So they have Barakati at the end of their names. Ala Hazrat rahmatullahi alayhi reached there, and it's written in his biography that when he reached there, Sayyid Ali Rasul Marahrawi rahmatullahi alayhi, when he saw Ala Hazrat, he said, please enter, come. I have been waiting for many days. Allahu Akbar. And then the spiritual allegiance was pledged. And at the same time, Ala Hazrat Ali Rahma was granted ijaza in all of these salasil of tariqat. And he was also given khilafat, spiritual successorship. Now imagine all of these blessings were given on the spot in that very first visit. Ala Hazrat Ali Rahma hasn't been before. This is the first visit. And normally, it's the way of the awliya, the Buzurgan-e-Deen, the pious predecessors, rahimahullah ta'ala, that they gradually increase the blessings on a murid. If he's qabil, if he's worthy. But here, all at once, these things have been bestowed upon Ala Hazrat Imam Ahmad Raza Khan alayhi rahmah. No spiritual devotions were told, were instructed to be performed. No riyada, no mujahada, none of this. So people there, they asked. And in fact, Abul Hasan Marahravi, rahmatullahi alayhi, who was present there, and he was the grandson of Ali Rasul and the spiritual successor as well. He said that, Huzur, you have granted this young man, 22 years of age, Ala Hazrat Ali Rahma was at the time, so many blessings, so many bounties, and you normally don't do so. Normally, it's a gradual thing. You make somebody ascend the ranks. You normally make them ascend the ranks, and then you bless them. But how come today you have given Ala Hazrat all of these blessings at once? It's a good question. What's the secret behind this? Sayyid Abul Hussein Nuri, he was a great wali of Allah himself, and now he's asking this question. Ala Hazrat Ali Rahma praises this particular personality, Abul Hussein Nuri, in his poetry, in his particular Qasida Noor as well. And Ala Hazrat Ali Rahma has mentioned his fadail in his Fatawa Radawiyya as well. Now this question of Abul Hussein Nuri, this was due to the fact, or this arose due to him knowing that this is something special taking place here. Abul Hussein Nuri was a great wali of Allah himself, a scholar of the deen. He knows that this is no ordinary person. That's why he asked the question. Huzur, inform us, enlighten us, how come you've done this? Allahu Akbar. You've given him ijazah in all the salasil, you've made him your khalifa as well. This must mean that this person is no ordinary person. And this is when Shah Ali Rasul rahmatullahi alayhi gave an answer, and he said, oh people, what do you know of Ahmad Raza? I have been concerned for a while. I've been thinking on the day of judgment, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks me that, what have you brought in my court? What have you got to show for your life? And I was worried, what would I say in reply if Allah ta'ala asks me? But now that worry has gone. Now I know that if that is asked from me, if Allah ta'ala asks me, what have you brought, O Ali Rasul? I will reply, Ya Allah, I have brought Ahmad Raza. Allahu Akbar Kabira. I will present Ahmad Raza. I will say, Ya Allah, this is what I have brought. Now imagine, viewers, Sayyid Ali Rasul rahmatullahi alayhi, a great wali and alim of his time, is saying this about his murid who has just entered his court. This was the state at the beginning of their meeting. This is the ibtida. What about the intiha? What about when Ala Hazrat Ali Rahma has spent many years gaining blessings from the same Sayyid Ali Rasul Marahravi rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi. Now Ala Hazrat Ali Rahma would show utmost adab and respect to his Pir Khana, meaning where he was bayat. And it stated that whenever he would go to Marahra thereafter, as soon as he would reach the train station, he would walk barefoot. Look at the adab, look at the respect, look at the love he would have for his Shaykh, his Kamil Shaykh. When Ala Hazrat Ali Rahma was informed that his Pir Sahib, his Shaykh, was arriving, or anyone from the blessed family of his Shaykh, Ala Hazrat Ali Rahma would himself, out of adab, go to the station to welcome them. When somebody would send a message from Marahra for Ala Hazrat Ali Rahma, he would show utmost respect to the qasid, the person who was sent as well. Allahu Akbar. He would place the dining mat for him himself. Ala Hazrat would do this. That this person has come from the home of my Shaykh. And similarly, the Shaykh would also bless Ala Hazrat Ali Rahma with much spiritual blessings as well. You've heard that Ala Hazrat Ali Rahma, as well as his father, Maulana Naqi Ali Khan, they were given bay'ah. As well as his father, they were given ijazah in all the salasil. They were made khulafa of Marahra Sharif. But also, it stated that Ala Hazrat Ali Rahma says that whatever the Shaykh would say, that whatever book, the Shaykh is saying this regarding Ala Hazrat, listen carefully, whatever book is published from our Astana, from Marahra Sharif, whether it's been published or not, as long as Ahmad Raza, Maulana Ahmad Raza, does not see that book and he does not endorse that book, do not publish it. Whatever he says, that it should be published or it shouldn't be published, eyes closed, act upon his he's saying. Whatever he says regarding that tasnif. And whatever he says should not be published, you don't publish that. Look at the yaqeen, look at the confidence that the Pir Khana had in the murid. The ilmi maqam of Ala Hazrat was known to all. And Sayyid Ali Rasul, Marahravi, his Astana, his Pir Khana would say this regarding their own publications. Otherwise, normally when someone writes a book, he doesn't want anyone to criticize it. He doesn't want anyone to take any mistakes out. But look at Sayyid Ali Rasul, he's saying whatever Allah Hazrat says regarding our tasanif, our publications, that's the final say. Allahu Akbar Kabira. When Nuri Mia would gaze upon the face of Allah Hazrat Ali Rahma, he would say that Wallah, he comes from a very blessed family. And this family will go on to ascend the heights, will gain great renown amongst the people. So Allah loved his murshid, and his murshid loved him as well. And he would meet the expectations of his Shaykh Kamil as well. The ulama say that Allah would respect his Pir so much that if the Shaykh, meaning Sayyidina Ali Rasul Rahmatullahi alayhi, would leave from a particular door, or exit from a particular door, and Allah Hazrat would, for example, use that same door, the manner in which he would come and go would be exactly the way his Shaykh came. The andaz. Meaning they say the only difference was the Pir Sahib, Shaykh Sayyidina Ali Rasul Marahravi Rahmatullahi alayhi, had white hair and Allah Hazrat had black hair. Meaning he epitomized the mannerisms of his Shaykh as well. Subhanallah. He was an embodiment. This is how much he was fana fi Shaykh, in love and annihilated in the love of the Shaykh. For Allah Azza Rahma, this was a brief introduction to his bay'ah and his Shaykh as well. His Shaykh is considered amongst his teachers as well, because he learned the asbaq, the lessons of tasawwuf from Sayyidina Ali Rasul Marahravi Rahmatullahi Ta'ala alayhi. And throughout his life, yaqeenan, he received immense barakat from his Shaykh. And today, even this is a lesson. If you have given your hand to a hand of a Kamil Shaykh, respect him. Show utmost adab. Allah Ta'ala will bless you in abundance for that adab you show to your Shaykh Kamil. May Allah Ta'ala grant us tawfiq to obey and follow our shuyukh, just as Allah Ali Rahmah strictly adhered to the teachings and instructions of his Kamil Shaykh as well. May Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala grant us pehchan, recognition of what a Shaykh Kamil is, in order that when we give bay'ah, spiritual allegiance, we give it to those who are qualified and those who meet the conditions as well. Only then will we receive barakat in abundance. May Allah Ta'ala grant us tawfiq to remember and act upon what has been said. Ameen. Bijahi khatamin nabiyyin sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam.
Imam Ahmad Raza, guiding souls with wisdom's grace, guiding souls with wisdom's grace. Our grand Mujaddid, a cherished embrace. Our grand Mujaddid, a cherished embrace.